even with public comment. We have two folks signed up, but I think Mr. Lynn, I think you'll go, we'll get to your portion of the agenda. And so we'll go to Mr. Joe Black, if you want to come to the podium. Say your name, your address, and then when you finish that, the 3 minutes will begin when the clerk is ready.
Joe Black, Howard Gap Road, Fletcher. Been here at conferences before. There's a small town west of here, Dillsboro, had a dam on the river, and the power company said, we want to move the dam. The neighborhood got the pitchforks and torches. No, no, no. Tourists come to see the dam. No one comes to see the dam, they come for the view. The mountain's a small town vibe. They tore the dam down. Water quality improved, aquatic life improved. Tourists come around because of the small town vibe, the mountains. Hayshire Mountain views we have taken away by apartment complexes. Hayshire Road's crowded with people that don't drive safe anyway. Our Gap Road's become about a mile-long parking lot early in the morning. 25 all the way from Interstate 26 to Ingalls parking lot. People on their phones, running red lights. The fire lane in Ingalls sometimes difficult to get in on, in and out of the store because people sit in the fire lane on their phone. I don't say our time ruined by multi-apartment complexes. People out of state that I know come for our views. They say, oh, you mean you can ride that mountain, the road and go to that mountain? Yeah. They don't know what it is to see what we see every day and take for granted. It's beautiful. I see it ruined with that. And the park, it's a resource we have that we use it. Events, a food truck day, somebody with a band come out and play, Easter egg hunt. To me, it's just a good resource. We take advantage of it. Okay, that's it for me.
Sounds good. We appreciate your comments, Mr. Black.
Thank you,
Mr. Black.
thank you.
All righty. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak during the public comment period? All righty. Hearing none, moving on to updates from council if there are any. Any updates? All righty. Moving on to the consent agenda, one item there. Any questions, comments about the year-end audit contract? All righty. Hearing none. Moving into our discussion items, I am going to change this just a bit, and I'm going to move up the discussion and possible reappointment of Mr. Lewis Lynn to another term on the ABC board. I'll say I think he's our only applicant and our longest serving person on the ABC board, I think you just mentioned. And so I think he's well qualified, so my suggestion would just to move that to the consent agenda. Everybody's okay with that?
Yep, absolutely.
Good with
All
that.
righty. Ms. Lynn, you said you might want to say do you want to say a couple of words?
Well, I don't know many of the people here, so we do, so I just like to give them an idea of where I come from. I have lived in Fletcher all my 47 years with my wife, her and I, together. We had 5 children, 1 girl, 4 boys. The good Lord promised me after raising 1 teenage daughter, I'd never have to do it again. He kept his word. Past that, my family was in the wholesale beer and wine business. We covered about a third of the state of North Carolina for some 45 years. And that's where my interest came in alcohol. We got into transportation, bringing most of the wine into the Carolinas and Virginia because of what we had to bring in. And after we sold the wine business, I now own East-West Truck Runs. I'm also an ordained deacon in the Anglican Church. I go to church at Mills River at All Saints Anglican. And if anybody has any questions, I'm asking for your support for another term. My term is about to end. So if anybody would like to ask me any questions, wide open.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Lynn?
Just appreciate your service.
Yeah, absolutely.
We appreciate you. You're well qualified. We'll put you on the consent agenda. You'll be reappointed next week.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, Mr. Lynn. All righty, moving back up, we're going to go to discussion item number 5, the presentation on having summer concerts at the auction house. Mr. Josh Queen, the floor is yours. We're glad you're in this position.
Yeah, it's been great so far. Like 4 or 5 months,
Yeah,
and the park's coming together.
that's right. We appreciate
Started
it.
the fences last week.
Like it.
Well done.
So I'm here to ask permission to move our summer concert series to across the street to the auction house food hall. We're going to market it as kind of the end of the school year bash, having activities throughout the afternoon, bounce houses, face painting, and then end the night with our concert. Auction house, if you've been there before, it's a great location. It has already a stage there, indoor, outdoor seating. It's just a great place. I want to create a different atmosphere for our concert, so yeah, for permission.
Yeah, well, one, I think.
And one,
go ahead,
if I
Mark.
can add, excuse me, just want to, Josh had discussed having a shuttle service there too. For
Oh, my
parking.
question, Parker.
So
Okay.
I thought that was
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Sorry. And I've already talked to our lady that drives our bus for summer day camp, and she's on board to do our shuttle that afternoon.
All right, where, are folk parking at
At Town Hall.
Town Hall?
And then we
Yeah.
shuttle back and forth.
Sounds good. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Is there two concerts we usually do?
So if it's a hit, we'd like to do both of them at Auction House. The first one will be June 7th, and then the last one, we don't have a date, so August, like first of August.
Because I know last time we had a lot of feedback, people wanted it at the park a lot, because it's a big open space and everything, so I know that when we used to do Blue Ghost, that was a big, bunch of people call, and that's one thing we battle back and forth, is, you know, maybe having one at one location, one at the park still, because is enough of room up there? Because, I mean, we usually have, what, 500, 600 people at the park.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The attendance hasn't been well the last summer, it wasn't, maybe 100, 150.
Oh, wow, okay.
I'm just looking for something different. And we can do one there and one there if it works out at the park.
I know that's one thing that the citizens seem like they wanted the park. You heard even Mr. Black says more events at the park, but he'd love to see that as well. So that's what we keep hearing the feedback. So, I mean, just having everything at one location at a business, and you know, it kind of looks like you're focusing on one business in the town. That's the only, I guess,
I'll just try
drawback.
something new, and if
Yeah.
it works out, then I'm up to having one there and one at our park as well.
And you could, if you want to direct us to do it, we could split one at the park and then one at Auction House, maybe do the June one there, and then a July one back at the park.
Any other questions?
I mean, I kind of like the idea of, well, I think we should see how it goes. Yeah, but I think one at the park and one at auction house is fine. But I do like the idea of having it at the auction house. I think it, you know, gives probably you all a little bit less to do in terms of stages and a lot of the work that you all have to do, so probably.
When it's hot at the park, we can work around that, but just trying something different.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to do. I mean, I think that's probably the one other place on Fletcher we could do it at, if restaurant-wise or venue-wise, but I think it's a great idea. I
And they
think,
reached out to me. and
Yeah.
To collaborate.
they've mentioned it to me as well. I think Mark and I talked with them a couple months ago, and I like the idea, so maybe one there, one at the park, sounds good to me.
So we can move forward with it?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be curious to see and hear how it goes after
Yeah.
for this one, and then go from
I
there.
appreciate y'all. Thanks for your support for Parks and Rec.
Yeah. Well, one other question. So if it does end up going with the World Auction House, would it be too burdensome to maybe change the one that we're talking about at the park to the auction house if it ends up going well?
I would like to have both of them at the auction house, but I'm open for discussion.
So it's doable,
To switch it
yeah,
to the auction house if the first one goes well?
yeah.
All right. Well,
But I mean,
yeah,
if you want to debrief and get, we typically do a post-event evaluation and regardless. you
yeah,
know,
that
so
might be helpful.
Look at that.
Just, yeah,
I think the parking is the only concern I have right now.
that's probably my
Yeah.
biggest
Well,
concern.
and
yeah.
it is, without the shuttle, I don't think,
And I don't want people
I would
walking
be-
across 25.
Mm-mm.
So
Yeah.
that's my only concern.
Yeah, I know the businesses over there is usually pretty busy as it is, so another 100 to 200 people, are they able to handle?
That's a good
It's
question.
the-
Yeah, because, I mean, you drive by there now, it's packed,
It's
so,
packed, yeah.
and you're fixing to throw another 100 to 200 people in there, is it, That's why my questions, I'm just throwing rocks at everything or here,
Yeah,
devil's
that's a
advocate.
good concern, and that's my only concern
Yeah.
is parking.
Where they're standing actually in Fanning Bridge Road trying to get in there.
And I have another meeting next week with them at Auction House, and so we're gonna kind of go with logistics. Maybe I'll get back with y'all.
Well, it sounds like we could just, see how this one goes and move
Have we
forward in the
talked-
future.
Have we talked to anybody else, like Lulu's or whatever, this consignment shop, or see if we couldn't use parking from the businesses right next door to it or something? Because people are going to be parked there anyway if it gets too crowded, but have we spoke to them about it to kind of
I'm
get?
just gonna reach out, and you can go through the woods to the backside, and end up at the playground right there.
Yeah.
That business, so I'm gonna reach out to them as well.
Yeah,
And the owners of the property and the people who own the business that run it, the restaurants, have reached out to adjoining businesses. I know they've been, and I don't know if they've done it all the way down to like the garage, but like Magnolia Properties was a developer that I think still technically owns the property, but they've been involved with trying to find, like they were trying to, our strip of town center property, and it's not zoned and it not set up properly for it, but they've been doing constant reach out to adjoining property owners about that. But we
parking-
can do that for this event too.
Parking and traffic, entering and exiting. I know sometimes that section of Fanning Bridge right there
It's hard to
gets a
get
little
in.
sketchy. So,
And not everybody's gonna take a shuttle bus, people are still gonna walk, that, so.
No, I don't like that, especially at dark.
Yeah, and it's gonna be, people gonna be crossing the 25. It's like, if you do it one time and see how it works out, instead of putting all your eggs in one basket. But this some concerns there, and then see what kind of feedback from the public and see what they say from that, because I know they was really big on the park.
The park, yeah.
Because plenty of parking, kids go out there and play kickball and everything else, they're out there having fun, and kids are drawing on sidewalks while the concerts are going on, not just sitting there.
Right.
So that's the thing, but we can try it and see.
Try and see. Okay. Thank you.
And Josh can discuss some of these questions and issues,
Yeah.
particularly the parking, I know, traffic control that afternoon, evening.
Sounds good. We appreciate it, Josh.
thank you, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Josh.
Alrighty, moving on to the item number 6, the request from Duke Energy for easement for landing at Meadowview. We have Morgan, Pat, and then some other folk from Duke Energy. Thank y'all for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank y'all, appreciate it. This is Jennifer and John, they're with our right-of-way department, and so they can kind of maybe answer some more of the legal top side. I can explain what we want to do, and then they can explain kind of how that's going to happen. I'm not sure if y'all have seen the map.
Yeah, I put in their packet, just so you know, Morgan, and there's a memo in there. I took a lot of the information that you had shared as far as kind of the technical why you feel that's the best location for the power poles. So they have that information, and they have all 3 of the maps that you sent.
Okay,
So,
awesome. I was gonna say, I have
and
a
that-
couple extra printed off, I think about each one.
Yes,
but-
thank you.
Okay. So we'll just start with just the basic first right-of-way map, which is what we are requesting for the complex that's going in. So that's just the one with the white arrows, where you can see the Fletcher Meadowview Partners property and the Campbell Fletcher property. So basically what we'd be asking for is the existing line starts on Tim Fletcher and then runs across onto the partner's property. It runs through the development in such a way that it needs moved because they can't begin construction or grading before the line is moved. And so what we're requesting is just to catch it at the property line and then cut up the property line all the way to Old Cane Creek Road. What that would entail, our overhead easement is 30 foot wide entirely, 15 foot either side of the line. So we would place that as close to the property line as possible. They do have a retaining wall, which you might be able to see from your maps, or maybe not. But I have a little diagram on the side of this map so you can kind of see what that's going to look like. The property line butts up with the retaining wall, and then you can see the length of the easement. So you would have between 15 and 18 foot of easement on the Tim Fletcher property all the way up the property line. That would be an overhead line, and each black dot represents the poles. So we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 poles. That would be part of the new easement that we would be asking. We do have an existing, right, what was that?
We have a future development easement already in place on the property, so we wouldn't actually be asking the town to sign a new easement. We can use the old easement that we have. What we're looking for is just sign off on the work map, this new work that we're doing to, so that you approve with the new pole locations and the red lines.
And we'd also, excuse me, have access to the power that, on the new lines that would be run for the town's property.
Yeah, that kind of goes into our second map, I guess, with the, kind of some red words over here, and you can see where there's the park, and the lines that go over the park currently. So that was kind of part of our discussion. We wanted to make sure that this was gonna work out for y'all as well as this new development, of course. So one benefit is with all these poles that are running along the property line, I know there was maybe some talks of building in the future, development in the future. You know, we don't exactly know what's going in, but this is like our main feeder line, so you would have access from any of those pole locations to pull power from. Through phase, so whatever you build, you'll have more than sufficient power to cover that. And it gives you more options, because right now there's nothing on the property except at the very, very far back. But this gives you all the way to Old Kingdom. So that would actually be beneficial depending on what you're trying to build. And then for another kind of selling point, if this would be beneficial to you, it doesn't necessarily have to be. But if you did want to move this line along the back to the property line, right now it kind of cuts across your property, so you kind of can't use the bottom corner over here because our line runs across it. If that's something that y'all want to work in with the easement, we can actually move that line back to the property line, and then that'll help you kind of access your property a little bit better. I will say the only thing with that, there's a little bit of tree trimming that we would need to do. You can see I think there's like a little tree stand right there. Again, that's a 30-foot swath of trees. So that would be the only thing. I obviously didn't know that when we spoke the other day, but whenever I started looking at the aerial, I was like, well, I don't know if you want to do that or not, because we're going to have to cut in a new easement. But this is just something to consider. If we're not asking for this, it would just be up to you if that's something you would want and, you know, find beneficial for the property. So, any questions about why and how and all the good stuff?
Questions, comments?
I think if we do, can we move that pole back where we can access our property more efficient in the future? Like you're saying, cutting back, we said, what, 30 foot of tree, 30 feet, just to open it up a little bit. I think that'd be beneficial in the future,
I think so too.
since you're already running it.
Yeah, since we're already like doing so much, I'm like.
You're right there.
Pole.
Yeah.
I will say it impacts you can see the black line is the existing at the park and the white line would be the new. It would impact a couple of these poles down here just slightly. We'd be changing the angle a little bit. So I'd have to go look at it in person, but on an aerial view, it looks like we might have to shift this pole like 10, 15 feet just to keep it in line. And same thing there. The yellow anchors we have going into the ground, we probably just need to swing and adjust. So we'd be moving from the black line to the white line. But yeah, I mean, if that would be beneficial for y'all and, you know, allows you access to the property, I think this could actually overall, hopefully, if y'all go to develop one day.
Yeah, I think it's beneficial to us, everybody,
Yeah.
council, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Plus, we lease it for farming, and if that makes it a little easier for, right now, for the farmer to move equipment around it, that's another benefit.
And are these the standard wooden poles, or is this?
Yes,
Yeah.
they would be, I would have to measure off the wall. I don't think the wall gets taller than like 20 foot, so the poles would be between like 50, 55 foot tall poles. And it would be like 3 lines at the top. So the line that's out there, we basically just be moving it. So it would look exactly the same. It would
Okay.
be,
But the guide wires would be within your 15-foot right away, or would that be,
this one, so you can see there's only one anchor that's gonna butt
Yeah.
out a little bit. I would have to, I'm thinking that's gonna be like at least least a 22-foot, it'd be a 22-foot guy anchor. So it would come out past that 18-foot at that one spot. But if we need to, we can run multiple and shorten those. So if that's like a solid, like you can't, you tell us we can't go more than that 18-foot, that 15-foot, then we could route that in. But traditionally, it would be like a 22-foot anchor.
Okay. All sounds good to me. Are there any other questions, comments? So I guess we need to take action on this next week.
Yeah, I guess maybe we can move this to
Take consent agenda.
If that's
Yeah.
okay.
That'll be perfect.
Yep.
All right, sounds good.
Thank
We
y'all.
appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, discussion item number 7, the presentation of fiscal year 2025-2026 match request, Apple Country Transit. The floor is yours. And you have to, I always forget how to say your last name, I'm so sorry.
That's okay, it's Beyond Cooley.
Beyond Cooley, thank you for being
I
here.
learned how to say it too. It's all good. Okay, so you've got your PowerPoint.
Yeah, the packet.
Yep. We have to see if it magically.
Sorry, Jen,
It's
that's
fine.
not.
Thanks for having me back. I'm Jana Bianco, I'm the senior planner with Henderson County. Been here a couple times talking about Apple Country Public Transit. Happy to be back and just kind of going over a system overview. It's pretty complicated, the transit system, so just kind of running down, it's hard to remember all that. Especially the funding and then what we're asking of Fletcher for their contribution. So for the system overview, I'm now on page 2, and I'm looking at the system history. So in 2007, that's when the county took over the system. It used to be owned by Western Carolina Community Action, WCCA, in coordination with NCDOT. So a lot of the older shelters you see that are wooden shelters, that was NCDOT who put up those shelters. Henderson County took ownership in 2007. In 2013, the county built a compressed natural gas station, which is out on, it's not Washington.
William Street.
William Street, thank you, Jim. It's out on William Street. If you haven't seen, it's the same as where our other gas services are. But that allows us to have 6 dedicated CNG buses, which is better for the environment. They emit a little bit of what's called SOx and NOx, but it's way less pollution than if it were a school bus, diesel or gasoline. So 2023, 2024, when I was here last, we talked about the transit feasibility study that the county did, and they ended up adopting that in this past December, got a little delayed with the hurricane. But also at that December meeting, in reaction to the hurricane and realizing how it's affecting our riders, your county commissioners eliminated fares for the whole system and extended service for an hour in the evening, and that's to run through the end of this fiscal year. So now I'm on page 3. Our system is responsible, or Henderson County is responsible for funding and implementation of the urban transit services. The county contracts out operation to WMC Source, which used to be known as Western Carolina Community Action, and they've held the contract since 2007. So they used to own it before 2007, now they just operate it as a contractor to the county. The system runs Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. It's free to ride. In this past fiscal year, we had 73,486 riders, which is 2.3% greater than our pre-COVID ridership numbers, so that's really positive. There are 113 stops along 3 different fixed routes. The system covers 57 miles of the county every hour. Our service area, you can see there's the red, white, and blue routes. The blue route is Route 3, which is what comes through Fletcher. And we also have an on-demand paratransit service. We serve 3 different municipalities, so in addition to y'all, we also service the city of Hendersonville and the town of Laurel Park. Paratransit service is a door-to-door service for individuals who cannot navigate the fixed route service. So it's not just physical disabilities, it's also cognitive disabilities. So someone who may not be able to understand a schedule or be able to navigate that. They're eligible for a bus to come pick them up at their house and then drive them straight to the grocery store, straight to the doctor's office. As long as it's within this 3/4 mile buffer, which is that the routes on the map, if as long as it's within that buffer, it's comparable to the fixed route system, and we can provide them that door-to-door service through the Americans with Disabilities Act. And that is a requirement. Henderson County cannot operate Apple Country Public Transit outside the urbanized area. That was on slide 5, that orange area. And you might be familiar with the urbanized area with the Fresh Broad River MPO. So the MPO serves that urbanized area, and the rural side would be like Transylvania County and those other areas. As you can see, very little of like Mills River is included in that, and so we've yet been able to make service out in the Mills River area because we can't fund it if it goes outside of that area. So we'll turn to page 4, system funding. So the county's eligible for Section 5307 funds from the Federal Transit Administration for operation, and it's provided through the MPO and administered by the City of Asheville. So on the right-hand side of that slide, you can see it's the FTA at the top, then it's the MPO, and then it's the City of Asheville, and then it comes to Henderson County, which City of Asheville being in there, it makes for a very complicated relationship. But we manage. It's interesting. The FTA does provide funding for the system at various levels. So the contracted service with WNC Source, only 40% of that contract is allowable cost, and we can be reimbursed in an 80-20 match. So at the end of the day, only 32% of that contract gets paid for with federal funds. Rolling stock, which is all of our vehicles, they're eligible for an 80-20 match. And bus shelters, signs, brochures, all those different things, they're eligible for a 50-50 match. So at the end of the day, the system does cost the county a fair bit of money. So we'll move on to the Fletcher requested contribution. In addition to what we charge Hendersonville and Town of Willow Park, we have a request for y'all for the FY26 budget year of $31,545. And the costs are based on the percentage of stops and the number of paratransit trips located within the town and its ETJ. It's averaged from the previous 6 months. And Fletcher may want to consider an interlocal agreement for transit service with the county, which is what we have with the City of Hendersonville. And we did that with them last year. And so they have a fixed cost for the remainder of the life of our contract with WNC Source, so they can budget out. They know exactly what they're going to pay for those next couple fiscal years. And that's set to expire in FY28, that contract with WNC Source, and then we'll be required to bid that back out. But then that could be renewed. We'd have then another 6 years of costs of what we know it's going to cost, and then could create that budget. So I wanted to offer that. I think the City of Hendersonville is pretty happy with that relationship. But just wanted to explain a little bit about our system and what our request is, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Well, I'll say thank you. That number makes sense now, where it comes from. But we might want to think about one of those interlocal agreements and see what that looks like, to see if it benefits the town.
I know we talked a little bit, and you may not even have the numbers, but of those special stops, the paratransit stop, how many of those, you know how many?
There was, it was in your bill. I don't know if you have that, Mark. I didn't think about bringing it, but it was over a couple thousand
Okay.
that occurred, and I want to say.
Oh, like on our invoice bill? you mean?
Yeah, it was in your
Okay.
invoice bill.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that,
I
but
feel
it
like
may have been.
it was maybe at least 2,500.
Okay.
trips. Yeah.
Okay.
That stops at actually in Fletcher?
Yes, that were we had so you had a very high tick up in paratransit trips this past fiscal year, compared to previous fiscal years, which is why your costs were a little bit higher than they have been in the past. So that is the benefit of the interlocal agreement. You're not going to be subject to these changes in rider behavior. It would be based more on, we could base it more on the fixed route system, which is just how many stops are in Fletcher, which is how we do that side of the bill, and do percentage that way. So then it's.
How many stops are in Fletcher? Is it 3, 4?
Again, it's in your bill. I feel like it's close to.
It's like 4 or 5.
It's not
Yeah,
many.
it's more
Yeah,
than
because,
that.
isn't the last one over by the airport where the connection is to Asheville system?
So there's one at the airport,
Yeah.
but that's outside of your.
Yeah,
That's
it's outside.
outside. So our last
But you
one's
have
on Fannie
Meritor
Brick.
as
Oh,
well.
okay.
So your ETJ counts. So that's just how our county commissioners are. If it's in the ETJ, we like to spread that love to the municipalities. So that's why it's a little bit higher than what you would think, because it's that extra.
Okay, yeah, because of the price almost doubled from last year, so that's how I was kind of curious.
Yeah, it's mostly your paratransit trips. It's not, you haven't received any new fixed route stops. It's, so the cost of the service, of course, went up because that goes up every fiscal year based on the contract we have with WNC Source. But what particularly made Fletcher's bill go up was the paratransit.
That's what I
trips.
wondered.
Yeah, was there something
Just so you know,
particular added or just?
our current fiscal year is 21,470, so this is a $10,000 roughly increase.
Did that go up more after the storm, Elaine? Do you
The
know?
trip, I think that we've had a fair bit more because more people are learning about it. I think that there's been a lot more education, especially since we did the feasibility study. A lot of folks are learning about, I think Council on Aging has done a lot of work trying to tell folks about it. We've just had a big uptick in general in the system overall, but especially Fletcher. And it can be, because those numbers are still relatively small compared to the fixed route, if you even have a handful of folks who are doing transportation for their every need all through the week, that can really bring up those numbers. It doesn't have to be that it's all these people. It could really just be a handful of folks whose every.
Multiples at the same address.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
Didn't we talk something about one of the stops were going to be eliminated last time we?
So last time I was here, we talked about potentially running an express route instead of going through and doing the different stops in Fletcher. And the county has not talked about implementing that at any time. If Fletcher wanted to request that, that's certainly something we could look at. That would change the route from hitting any of the stops in Fletcher, and the bus would take I-26 from exit 49 from Four Seasons Boulevard to the airport and make that connection with the city of Asheville and then come back. So it'd be express.
Okay, I remember that now, yeah.
I think it's important to keep that.
I think it always should be in the same.
I agree with the mayor, we need to probably look at the interlocal agreements, and what the cost is, the difference and stuff.
And we can do that for this year. We don't have to go with this invoice. If you want to look at setting it up, starting for FY '26 and then moving forward, that's something we can certainly do.
I think we should look at what that looks like.
Entertainment,
Yep, yep. Mark and I can.
Yeah, we can do that. And then I guess if we can get you just to send the updated map where our fixed stops are at.
I did hand out to Christine a.
Yeah, this is the route chart.
Yeah, so you might be able to see them all yourself. I'm sorry, I thought I had the invoice with me when I walked in here, so.
All good, no worries.
It's like, yeah, it's just the map is zoomed out quite a bit, so it's hard
I
to
can,
see.
yeah, I will
Yeah.
email it to you, Mark, so
Yeah.
you have it digitally.
Yeah, like zoomed in so we can see, because I thought there was one on Fanning Bridge, like near
Yeah, we have
Rutledge
two
and
on-
Fanning.
Right at Rutledge.
Rutledge Road and right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have two.
in two, okay. All right.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
and then we've got one at Lulu's as well.
All right.
And then there's one at Meritor. So I know of 4 off the top of my head. I think there's more than that.
What other questions or comments do we have?
And just the paratransit's obviously a very valuable service to
Yeah.
people with
It's a good
disabilities.
resource, yeah.
I know there's been a lot of, y'all have had a lot of questions and scrutiny on the fixed route and how much usage does it get? And I know it's always a question, but obviously some of the ridership's gone up since
Oh, yeah.
post-COVID.
To
and
be past
but-
our COVID numbers that's big. That's pretty big.
But that paratransit, that gets you from their door right to their.
Right to
that-
your
Yeah,
house.
that's a huge resource.
That's
It
a
is.
huge service.
Well, despite the cost going up, I'm glad it's a resource here that people
Right.
are getting some use out of despite the cost going up.
It's important to note too, if you didn't have paratransit services in Fletcher, people in Fletcher don't qualify for the rural transportation because of that urbanized area, because of how it works. So they can't call WNC Source and get rural transport with any of the other funding because Fletcher's in the urbanized area. So that's the only way to get it. And if there is no fixed route service, there is no paratransit service. They run together.
Yeah.
So it would have to be, it'd be a totally different system if we did just door-to-door. But that was part of the feasibility study. It's not super feasible to have the door-to-door and make that work for the whole county. The fixed route serves a huge number of people that are able to use it, so having both is the best choice, at least with the data we have. We can always look at that again later. But still not out. We'll just get together and.
Yeah, I thought they were all, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
And just so you, I'll put, as I have in the past, when I present the recommended budget, I'll have the full match request, and then you can discuss it.
Okay. All
Because I
right.
know some years you've gone with it, and some not, so.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. All righty, moving on, did discussion item number 8, we move on to discussion item number 9, the request to state legislative delegation to change the filing period for municipal elections. Mark, the floor is yours.
Yep, thank you, Mayor, Council. So, the city of Hendersonville had let us know, and they had this achieved, because I talked to the city manager about this, through their legislative goals or lists or requests for legislation, about changing the filing period from December to July. So right now, it got moved to December, held in December, because when they changed the election cycle for our municipal elections from the even to odd years to coincide with county. And you also went to the plurality method at that time, so there's no more primaries or need for a primary. So the benefit is in moving it from December to July. Well, July is a lot closer to the general election, so it's kind of an improvement or recency of people interested filing, and that's not such a big gap. It's more beneficial in December if you have primaries then coming up, because there's our partisan. So they got, Senator Moffett filed a bill, Senate Bill 130, and they let us know that that had been filed. This is a courtesy, the manager there had sent that out to the other municipalities that had been impacted by the prior legislation where they switched the filing periods. So we can like piggyback on this legislation or file our own separate bill. The easiest would be to piggyback on it. I have reached out to the office in Raleigh, emailed, texted Senator Moffett Friday, have not heard anything back. So we'll need to continue to communicate, and may need you all's help in doing that, so that we get a acknowledgement or response, and hopefully they'll agree to, if you all are okay with that, to piggyback on
I'll
it.
say
And
I-
that's what I need to make sure. I didn't want to assume that. You may have questions, so.
Yeah, I know at the time, I know we have some new council members, but when we had a discussion, I don't think we were ever in favor of it changing to December at the time. And so I prefer to go back to July if we can piggyback on the bill.
Just makes sense.
So for some reason, I was thinking it was because of the county election board. It was easier for them because they file everything at one time versus having to call staff and do twice. So I think that's where it comes from. I think we need to probably check in with, maybe Summer or Aaron from the election board and see if it's going to put an extra burden on them with cost and stuff. I was thinking that's what it was, the whole thing.
It does, I think that did play into it, so
Yeah.
it will.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're looking at this from a benefits standpoint to,
That's
Yeah,
two
the town.
folks, sort of like that. I mean, so two different ways you can look at it. You can say it gives a candidate a whole year opportunity to plan and prepare and get, signs, because when you start ordering signs, when everybody else is getting signs, it takes a time to come in, but I can care less either or. My big thing is this, I talked to I think it's coming from the election board and see how much of a burden. I'm just kind of curious about that myself.
And I think that is a valid point to see what that cost is. But what I will say though, I mean, to your point about, candidates getting ready and campaign, I mean, they can do that at any time. Yeah, at any time. You don't have to wait to file to do that. But yeah, I think the point about seeing those costs might be valid to look at.
Because I was thinking that was majority of the whole thing was
That-
hinged on our actual Henderson County Board of Election.
Yeah, I think you're right, that did play a point. I recall talking to one of our legislators, and they
That's-
mentioned one that wanted it to line up with the other elections, but to me, our elections are just our issues are just so different. That's why I just think we should be as separate as possible in my eyes, but.
and one other thing that made that simpler, if you have one filing, but you don't have the need, and you didn't always have to have a primary. It depended upon if you had more than two people filing with it, first filing, then it necessitated a primary, and then to narrow it down to two candidates for the general election. But, so that's something that changed a little bit too when you went to the plurality method.
I think that was our reason for trying to go to the plurality method initially.
Yeah.
Is to stay at that July filing date, if my memory serves me correctly.
So, I'm trying to remember all the details on it, but so that changed too, and that impacts this. I mean, I'll ask the elections board about that.
I can probably reach out to Senator Moffett too and see.
Yeah, I know that was part of the issue that was explained back from the legislative delegation, was cheaper on that too.
Well, wait a minute, where does everybody feel on the July versus December point? Where are we standing at?
I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me.
Either way, I can go either way, because
Yeah, I
somebody's going to run, no matter if they're going to register in December or July,
Not to
so.
Put it off for such,
Yeah. So it sounds like the majority of us are just for July anyways.
I can go either or. I just want to make sure about the election board. Why was it done that way before?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, let's, I guess, get that question answered, but it sounds like in general, we're okay with it going to July, and representing everybody correctly.
If I could leave this on the agenda and I get
Next
some
week,
action
yeah.
on it next week, I think that would be important.
Sure.
And we could do a resolution on it, but I think if you get a motion and we got that action back to our legislative delegation, and in particular Senator Moffett, since it was a Senate bill that was
Right.
introduced.
Okay. And I guess we need to figure out where Representative Balcom is on the issue as well. Make sure
Yeah,
she's
I can ask.
supportive.
I copied her on this, but I haven't specifically asked.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Do you have any other questions or comments on that item? Okay, good. All right. Then moving on to discussion item number 10, consideration of realignment of ABC board member terms. Mr. Manager.
Thank you. So, I know you heard from Mr. Lynn earlier on his appointment. And this would change, when his appointment would go through, but basically, we had the state ABC commission, so this is someone from their state office that regulates ABC boards, and it was an auditor, their audit and budget manager from the North Carolina ABC Commission. He had emailed or reached out to myself, other staff here, about trying to realign the appointments so that they were staggered, kind of like neatly staggered. And if you look, I've got a memo in here on this that shows the existing terms versus what the ABC Commission board member was suggesting as a possible way to realign it. And so you can see, like, our chair, Samantha Todd, has her term up in December 2025, so December of this year. And then Louis Lenz, so Mr. Lenz, it would expire the end of this month, so April 2025. And then you jump all the way to Brandon Olson's 3-year term being up in June of 2026. So it's a bit haphazard there as far as spacing of when their terms expire. And generally, it's a good idea, even like with, city councils.
Yeah,
and
we don't want everybody gone at once.
Yeah, that you have
Mass
staggered
change.
terms, because the amount of change. Plus, with the ABC board, you get a certain amount of institutional knowledge with some of the board members. And sometimes if you just that all turns over, that can cause some level of disruption there. And we've got, a profitable, well-run ABC store right now, so hopefully keep it that way. Mr. Woolard from the State ABC Commission had suggested to try and keep it staggered, maybe 1 year apart, where it would be, and this is a suggestion or recommendation, we can do it differently if you want, and that this would sync up so that you'd only have to do 2 of the terms of the 2 board members' terms to realign. You can keep Brandon Olson's at the current one, but so our chair, Samantha Todd, then would go through June of 2027. Mr. Louis Lenz would be June 2028, and then Brandon Olson's stay at June of 2026. So you could, by motion, change that, and then we would notify the board members of the realignment of terms. And then I would suggest if someone if someone resigns, or you don't reappoint, sometimes, someone can resign or get sick and come off, or, different things happen, that you only appoint them for the balance of the term and not right at that point. Because I think some of ours, we might have reappointed them or appointed somebody at the point that the other person had gone off, and that kept the staggered nature of this a little haphazard here, like what we've got now.
Yeah.
So that's a recommendation, and if you're comfortable with that, then you can just take action maybe next week, or if you want to think about it, you could do that.
I'm comfortable with it. To your point, though, about if somebody wants to resign, the only thing is, I think Brandon's fine, and then Louis Lynn, he's going to get reappointed coming up, or next week. I would just verify with Samantha Todd that that she wants to stick around and understands that this term's going to extend out.
Okay.
Because her term's the only one that's really majorly going to be affected.
Yeah, it's just her.
So
All the
would
others
we just,
should be fine.
would we reappoint her at this point to make it last to 27, or, because,
That's what I was.
because that way at 25, she wouldn't get her full
Right.
3-year term in, it would just go to the 20.
I think it makes sense. It makes sense, and every June that
Yeah,
there'll be an election for that.
But you don't stand
and it
there with
really doesn't
a
affect
large
Mr.
chunk
Lynn.
every year.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Just verify that Samantha Ty understands
Okay.
what that looks like for her and make sure she's willing to do that.
Yeah, and a good point, because I think there was some, at least discussion when I was talking about putting this on the agenda, should we reach out, and see, are they willing to be reappointed for that long of a period of time?
Yeah.
So,
Rather than that, if she's willing, then I think it's appropriate to do next week.
yeah.
Agreed.
And they're an active board, I think they're very engaged, we're getting minutes from them, and maybe even think about some type of other updates, or quarterly or something like that.
Yeah.
I know prior, couple when it was before, yeah. Yeah, Larry Waldrop several years back, and then Steve Watkins was the
Yeah.
one who preceded
Yeah.
Samantha Todd, so.
Well, how about, when you ask Samantha if they ever get in touch with her?
Okay.
If council's okay with it, ask if she wants to come give an update next week, or whenever.
Okay.
I guess it is the start of a new quarter this month.
Y'all have been getting her minutes.
Yeah, they're pretty good too. I mean, they're pretty clear.
Yeah,
I like 'em.
detailed.
It's,
All righty, other comments, questions, that item? All righty, moving on to your report, Mr. Manager.
Okay, thank you. So, update on the park repairs, and I know I just emailed you about it, but if you hadn't seen the email, so our contractor, Patton Construction, I know they've been working for a while to really fully mobilize and see action out there, but they've had some delays in the delivering of the fencing materials, but they kind of started in earnest last week, and they've had some meaningful progress, I would say, to this point. So the dog park area, so we had part of the fencing on the small dog breed side was damaged, and that has been replaced or repaired. I think it's a replacement, and they were doing some other stabilization when I looked at it the other day. So that's done. All of the concrete or those cement sidewalk area that's along the, close-in perimeter around the multi-use courts, the pickleball, tennis, basketball court, they've got those demoed or removed, and then they got them fenced off, and then they'll be putting new cement in there. And then the last thing, they have started on the actual ball fields. Some of the posts started going up on field 3, and some of the other fencing material's been delivered there. But, once the posts go up, then that fencing, they'll roll pretty quickly with it, and the backstops need to be finished as well. So they're, starting now to make some decent progress on it. If I get any other updated timelines, I'll continue to share that with you, and, let me know if you have any questions. I previously reported that the laser grading, which is where they get the new dirt on the ball fields, that was delivered and spread and laser graded, and that looked
It looks
really good.
good.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
looked good. Thanks. And they're, they scrape it or grade it in advance of practices and ball games. So they're out there using it. Haven't heard any problems yet. So kind of our next big thing is we gotta get that bridge and there's some of the stream bank areas that are gonna be repaired. So McGill Associates, is working and helping us to get the bid specs together. They've been trying to iron out some requirements as far as what FEMA's wanting with floodplain review or flood impacts. And I think we won't have to do as much of that and related to permitting and so forth. To get it to a point where we can bid it. So we're trying to get that resolved, like flood modeling and this other thing they have to do. And then they do a scope of work, so we're trying to push that along so we can get a bid packet, bid specs, and then get that let for bid, because we know people are itching get across the bridge there and use the rest of the trail and so forth. So that is in progress. There's just been a lot of hoops to jump through because obviously we're going for FEMA reimbursement on this, and so we got to get that resolved before we can let that for bid. But we're getting close, inching closer on that. So that was kind of it for update on the park repairs. Second thing I wanted to mention, unless there's any questions on that, is the update on debris removal. So as you all know, the town assisted with vegetative debris removal, and we're kind of, this is related to the storm. We're essentially through or up to date with that. Now we're doing other brush pickups, but the next thing was C&D, or construction and demolition debris. And we've got, we have piles in various places around town. They still haven't been picked up, and the county offered to the municipalities that have collection capabilities, if you want to participate and coordinate it with their contractor, and then you could do that. So we, City of Hendersonville, I think, has just started theirs up. We wanted to do it too. I talked some with the city manager there about logistics that they were looking at, and basically we want to move this along. So Javel Presley, our public works director, reached out to them last week to make sure our trucks were certified, that they were coordinating with their contractor, because it's all going through FEMA reimbursement. And we started picking up. I emailed you all about it Friday. We started. And we don't have as many C&D piles as we had counted before. I think it was like 64 before, now it's down like 32. And they've already hit a bunch of them and picked them up. They had one huge one that was like a day job, but we may be a week, 2 weeks, if the weather cooperates, to finish that up. So that'll look a lot nicer around town for those C&D piles.
So that's going straight to landfill, or?
No, it goes to a staging area somewhere over by I'm not clear where, over by the community college.
Okay.
Not where the vegetative stuff we've seen that's been getting ground down, and that, the llama farm, I think is what they call it. So somewhere near the community colleges. So we deliver it there, and then they take it away to landfill it, basically, because I know it's C&D, but I think it gets disposed of like regular municipal solid waste. And we don't have to pay a tipping fee there. They take it away. So the only thing we're doing is
Fuel and time.
Yeah, it's fuel and time, and right now we feel like we could step up and do that, and so commend Public Works. They've hit this hard, and Javel Presley with
Send our thanks.
yeah, thank you. So, and I'm glad we can help. The county stepped up big with getting a contractor to do this. It just is such a monumental task.
Yeah. Are we back on the vegetative side to doing random pickups for?
That's what I was
Yes.
wondering, it's warming up now.
For the standard cycle, I know a lot of people are getting in and
Yeah.
pruning and trimming and putting out, and I've had a lot of questions.
We're taking debris
Okay.
or brush pickup orders. We're
Okay.
doing that. The county has communicated to countywide, including, all the municipalities, that there's a May 1st deadline that they want to kind of set, that if you have storm-related debris, Helene storm-related debris, you need to have it out there. That doesn't mean they will stop picking up past May 1, because they got to give people at least until that date. But there needs to be some cutoff, and it gets harder to discern after that. And they have monitors, and they can reject a pile, and so that's out there too. I want you all to know. But thankfully, we can help, and we don't have to look at the couch on Fanning Bridge Road. It's generated a lot of conversation. So I just want to give you an update on that, and Jabo will continue to update us as that list gets narrowed or whittled down. Last thing I had was just a reminder, this Saturday, I'll do a connect call or the Blackboard direct call to residents, but, well, we got two events. We got our Easter egg hunt at the park, which starts about noon, but the shred event and medication or pill drop with the police department, that'll be in the south parking lot here, starting at 9 and going to noon. So we'll continue to get the word out on that, but that came up quickly, so we got our shred event.
Good.
Yep. And that's all I have.
All right, any questions for Mark?
Yep.
I do have one question, Mark. Have we heard any, well, I got one complaint from a resident over in Windstone about Wilson North, and I know some residents had complained in the past about, I guess, maybe some of the noise coming from there. And I guess, I can't remember what the resolution was last time, if there was a resolution. But can we see if there's anything happening there to maybe cause additional noise?
Yeah, I had an email over the weekend from a resident in Village at Windstone, and I wrote back to him and I asked the question, and I also explained to give some history on this. I mean, it may be something we really can't do anything about,
Yeah, sure.
because as we know, Wilson Art was there before that was built.
Yeah.
And they are trying to be good neighbors. About 10, 11 years ago, they put a muffler on there to
Yeah, I
try and
remember, yeah,
dampen
yeah.
some
Yep.
of the sound, but there is noise from that plant.
Yeah.
In particular, part of their manufacturing process generates steam.
Yeah.
And when that steam is released, it causes some noise, and that it could be at night. But I asked the resident if they could give, has anything been different?
Yeah.
You know, and.
That's what they
and then-
said to me, that something was different, I guess. But
Okay, and
I
I
don't
know
know.
from the plant manager, I've had some conversation in the past, that when they have like down periods or the plant shut down,
Right.
I think the steam has to be released more.
Okay,
There's some, and it affects that.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that might be happening right now, I don't know.
yeah,
But I'll share that with the plant manager there, and
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
can explain or check anything, but it's kind of this,
Yeah,
I
sure.
know we want to be
You know,
responsive,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's not something new there
Right.
that's happening, and it may be louder, and if we need to convey that, and there's something the plant can do to address it, then we certainly want to ask them to do that.
yeah, sure. Well, yeah, whatever they say, I think it's just helpful to get back to, it sounded like you had a resident, I had a resident reach out and communicate to them about it, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
And I'll do that again, and probably reach Tammy Albrechts, the plant manager, and probably reach out there. Yeah, I talked to it was about a year or so ago, with the president of their HOA, and was conveying some concerns
Yeah.
about that, and then we checked it out, and they said they checked their equipment again, the muffler, and, explain when there's downtimes, there's more
Sure.
of that steam release. But yeah, I'll follow up on that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right,
I
go
got two
ahead.
things. I got two things real quick. Somebody reached out on the farmer's market, but I guess the question was, they're put in for it, but they only get to pick certain days, or, is it getting full, or?
Yes.
That's a question right there, because I know this person sells strawberries. I know a lot of people follow this individual and stuff. Is it, I didn't know if it was because of this getting too many vendors, because he put in for every day and he only got a certain day, and it's scattered and it's no.
Yeah, and that's probably because they got other vendors to, I guess, put in before them. I'm not sure how they sift through it. They got way more vendor which is a good thing, than slots that they had. So that's.
How many slots do we have?
I think 20 is what
Do
they
we need to
wanted.
increase? I don't know how big of a space does that space hold more than 20? I just hate to start pushing people away right at the beginning, and the next thing you know, they won't come no more.
And I had the same conversation. I think the question was, being that it's a farmer's market, because I know this came up in Mills River and the Britons had to address it over there,
Yeah.
is that farmers take priority and are never turned down.
Right.
And then they backfill with.
Craftspeople.
Craftspeople
Yeah.
and stuff like that to fill the rest of those slots so that every week those farmers can get in and those growers can get in to serve their
A
produce.
true farmer's
Yeah.
market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the guidelines is for more produce, like farmers, than craft stuff, because you
Yeah.
want to have
I would like to see them get priority over
Yeah.
craft
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, I think it is set up that way, but I can double check.
Or maybe.
Since it is a farmer's market.
Yeah, and if you get that good of a feedback, maybe even if it's possible, if we can maybe go 30 spots or something like that. I just want to go a flop when you first open it up. It seems like everybody's really wanting this to happen, and it sounds like you got some good feedback on it too, for people. That was the question right there. They put in is then, if he starts having to skip around, they might have to pull out. And I've had if you hear like somebody say that, you start worrying about other farmers, like, okay,
That group talks.
yeah, they do.
Oh, and this is going to be an ebb and flow, and there's going to be some people who don't like, I mean, I'm just going to throw where they are positioned in there, and
Right.
they're going to want how it's run, and
There's some growing
it's
pains.
it's going to evolve, and then.
Setup and all is one thing, but I do
Yeah.
want to make sure we're giving priority to the people growing so that they can get their product out weekly and not lose food or lose produce.
I agree. Because like strawberries, it's only seasonal once they leave, that's it, they're done.
Yeah.
So they all, we're starting next month, right?
For May.
Yeah, it's next month
Yes, are we,
already.
are we all good to go on that? What's the,
Yes, we are. Yeah, they've had.
That's awesome.
They've had more applications than openings, which
That's
I
good.
did not.
That's a good thing.
It is, yeah, I didn't think that, well, I kind of got the impression just through the process, and we did our listening session and so
A lot of
forth,
interest,
that
yeah.
I think we'll get a decent number, but I didn't think it would fill up and have like a waiting list, or basically more applications than we had slots for every week.
I'm worried about we turning them away
And
and
I
they
know
won't come
Mills,
back.
Mills River, when I was over there, they had that problem quite often, but they did give priority to the growers.
Yeah, I'll double check on that, on the priority thing, but I know I expressly mentioned to set this up with the guidelines to limit the number of crafters, to, try and keep it more of a farmer's market and not shift too much of
Crafts market.
whatever, yeah.
But I love to hear we've got that many interested.
Yeah, it's, okay. Yep. We'll
And
check on
the-
that.
Second thing I had, this, if you're right there, Mark, I guess this question is for you. Some residents reached out, they're kind of asking, it's a North Hillcrest Road. I think Jabez went out there and looked at it. They're wanting to eventually have the town take it over, and they're kind of curious what needs to be done or to get up to standards or stuff like that. So I think, like I said, they said Jabez come out there, that they need to
Yeah.
contact us, another individual petition, or how to get up to standards. How bad the standards is it, that type of thing.
Yeah,
I know
They
got- I
can
guess
get up
the
with
town-
Chavo or me,
Yeah.
but I mean, we'll have to get involved. So our,
Because they said there's a trailer park in the back that we serve, like, they use that road to serve all these other areas, but that one stretch on that, we don't.
it's essentially roads built after a certain date, and this is per our regulations, and I think it's within an ordinance. In order for the town to consider taking it over, the homeowners have to improve it to NCDOT, like subdivisions.
Is North Hillcrest a DOT road, maintained road? Is it a DOT road? It's the road right there by.
Yeah, I know North
Ingles.
Hillcrest, and I don't know why, I think it might be, I don't think that's one of ours. I don't know if the whole thing is.
Because I know they're saying they use,
is,
the town uses that road
private,
to
but-
access to other roads to do that.
Yeah, I mean, but we use private roads to access, and sometimes we go on private roads to, garbage collection and so forth.
I think they said we scrape it and everything, the back
They
part
might,
too,
they
everything.
might,
Yeah, there's
yeah.
a couple different roads off that we actually maintain.
I mean, I'll find out, I'll double
Yeah.
check on it, whether it's DOT or some portion town or all private, but I know there was a petition or interest years ago from some of the roads back off of North Hillcrest.
That time.
Yeah.
I think
there's
this
a little
was
road back-
Hillcrest,
and-
my understanding.
But the way our policy is it's got to be brought to NCDOT standard. I mean, that's our current
Yeah, yeah.
ordinance policy, before the town would consider taking it over. And, unfortunately, then it doesn't go any further than that because
I guess
they can't raise
question-
enough
Right.
money to improve the road to get it to that.
I guess the
standard.
question is it DOT, if DOT can get it the standards? And the
Yeah,
other question is,
yeah, yeah.
how bad the shape is it? I don't know if they've
Yeah.
communicated. I know one of the persons that contacted me was Chapelier, I think it's.
Yeah, Robert Chapelier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was one of them. No, I don't know if Jabba told him what needs to be brought up.
We've explained to people back there on multiple occasions. I mean, we'll get the latest information if anyone has a request. But yeah, the gist of it is, if it was, and I think it was roads before 1998 or something like that, that were built, if the homeowner, and you have to get all the homeowners to petition, it has to be brought up to DOT road standards before the town would consider taking it over, and that's our current. But I mean, we could check that out for
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Hillcrest or any other roads they want to ask about.
I want to say, is that, the only residents I keep hearing from is the
Hillcrest is
North Hillcrest. I don't know, that don't mention anything about off the,
Yeah,
There's a little road back there, and I cannot think of the name of it, but we went through that some years back.
yeah, there's another little road further back off of North
like Shady
Hillcrest.
something, Shady.
Sheehan or, no, I can't remember it, but anyways, they had to look on the map. And it came back to that answer that, about the being brought up to those standards for considering taking it over. DOT does that a lot of times. That's kind of their thing with, people approach DOT about taking over, a small secondary road for their maintenance responsibility.
Looks like there's only, there's Buck Place and there's North Kingswood Road, North Mockingbird
Park.
Lanes.
No, it's not that. I cannot
Kingswood's
think of
in
that.
Park.
I got the whole file on that.
Is there another road? Well, I mean, North Hillcrest goes way back in there, don't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, then it stops and it becomes.
Kimsley Creek
Yeah,
Road?
there's several that it turns into back there. But they can ask Javo and then, or myself, and can explain, that process.
Yeah, if you can find out,
Yeah.
I'll reach back out to
Yeah.
the ones that called
Yeah,
and say
we'll
this
get
is,
that.
just let them know. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
All righty, any other business from council?
It was Misty Rose.
Misty
It
Rose.
was
is one of-
Misty
Misty
Rose
Roads.
Lane, that
Maybe.
we went through that several
Oh,
years
did you?
back.
Yeah, that's-
It looks like a small
Once I
road.
saw it on the map, I know.
All righty, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion. Second.
All right, Joe motion, Trevor second. Sounds good to me. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Didn't mean to catch up with
No, it's all right.
you. Yeah, I've gotten the same phone call about the
Thank you.
market thing.
Rocky's in bed. Rocky rested right now.
They know where to go. It's the same.
Mike, how are you doing?
This is actually called the bridge.
Yeah.